From the Black Swan Media Studios, deep inside a secret underground bunker, we're speaking to freedom-loving patriots from all around the country and the world. Welcome to the Resistance. This is John Crump, live.
Welcome to the show. My name is John Crump, and how's it going, Wolverines? We have a special guest today. He is going to be a speaker at something that I am speaking at too, which is known as AmCon, and his name is the Clover. It is CloverTac. What is up, Clover?
I'm in the wrong place, man. I was told I was going on a show that was called John Crump Recorded, not John Crump Live. So what's up with this?
Well, John Crump Recorded is actually John Crump News. Sorry, Hank Strange was calling me for some reason. But yeah.
Not anything important, I'm sure.
Yeah, I have no idea. Yeah, he'll call me back. But before we get into everything, I just want to thank our sponsors. Our sponsors are JSD Supply. Check them out. They are a great company. Also, we are sponsored by Tusk. Tusk is a cryptocurrency focused on the firearms market. It's a way of getting around big banks.
Proudly sponsored by TUSC, the only cryptocurrency designed with the firearms market in mind, with 3-second processing times. It's the fastest cryptocurrency on the planet. With lower transaction fees than traditional credit cards. It's perfect for your e-commerce needs. For gun guys, by gun guys. Visit TUSC.network for more information and join the digital revolution.
And Black Swan Tactical, where you can get really cool patches like this patch, like Ever Vigilant patch. The DLD patch, Dark, I see is out there. This patch actually glows blue for the blue kinlight gleam. The 2A EDU patch. And this one is almost out. This is the Future Felons of America. And this actually glows, which is pretty cool. We have only 20 of them left in stock. So you might want to check them out before they run out of stock and they're gone forever because we don't repeat designs.
Black Swan Tactical, your #1 source for 2A streetwear. With shirts, mugs, hats, patches, flags, and more. There's always something to help you rep the 2A community. All proceeds go back into our projects. Viewers and listeners can take an additional 10% off with code CRUMPY. Unapologetically pro-gun, pro-liberty, and pro-freedom gear for the front lines of the culture war.
Not only is Dark out there, but so is 2A EDU. And we are.
What about Flying Rich?
We are joined by Flying Rich.
Wrong sound effect.
You haven't emailed me the sound effect.
Or that's what the last crash sounded like because I did hit a car.
That is true.
And the windshield did break.
That's true. I got a question for CloverTac.
Clover, you're looking good.
As always. I'm upset.
Why? But let me ask you a question.
No. Let's stop. Let me ask you a question since I'm the guest. Are you done with all the shilling and pimping for the day? Is it over with finally? Or do we got to listen to more of that garbage? Because I'm the guest. I expect to come here and everybody's ears be tuned to me and what I have to say. And I've spent 5 minutes. I feel like I'm in a Mr. Guns and Gear video here. It's ridiculous.
No, we front load all our ads so we don't have to worry about it later on.
That's why I don't join till 5:05 because that's when all the ads are done.
Well, yeah, you've actually made a smart choice. I mean, for once in your life, Rich, you've made a smart choice by doing that.
So hold on. The second smart choice I'll make today is deleting your phone number.
Oh, ouch.
If you think you can, go ahead.
Clover, I got a question for you. Are the streets in Texas running red with blood?
No, but they're 8 foot underwater if you listen to the mainstream media.
Oh crap!
You mean a disaster movie?
So that's about 5
Man,
feet of water over your head.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So yeah, you talk about aggravating. That's what I was mentioning the other night out in the chat. So, we got, tropical storm was coming in, all that good stuff. What was it? Nicholas, right? And so I'm watching some Houston news, Beaumont news, Corpus Christi news, some news channels down along the coast, as well as my local news. And, they're following it, and they're not giving mandatory evacuation orders. And they're saying, hey, this thing is weak. It doesn't really look like, because of the size of it, it just can't get organized, and the wind shear. And if you know anything about hurricanes at all, which I'm sure Rich down there does. But anyway, wind shear and everything else was causing problems, and they're like, it's not going to strengthen. And tropical storm at absolute worst, it did hit category 1 there for a little while anyway. So not a big deal, and I mean, very few people evacuated, and very little damage, and very, considering it was a hurricane, right? But then, I watched that stuff, and because YouTube, in its infinite glory and it giving us what it thinks we want to watch, gives me MSNBC, CNN, and not just that, but NBC Maryland and CBS Utah, right? That are showing footage from Tropical Storm Nicholas, and they picked the absolute worst hit spots that are like literally 3 square blocks, right, or something, and they make it out like it's the apocalypse or something, right? And I'm like,
if it bleeds, it leads.
I've talked about this before when we deal with YouTubers and the way that they, frame their videos and they do their stuff and they put the information out there. And really, they're just piggybacking off of what the mainstream media has done for years and years. But it's really ridiculous. If you watched anything on Tropical Storm Nicholas and it did not come from within the state of Texas, you were lied to. That's all I got to say about it.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it's, where was it? Was it recent? Was it Nicholas? First off, Nicholas, down here, they're saying, hey, it's going to be a rain event, not a wind event. They're going to get a lot of rain. Mm-hmm. And I don't know which storm it was, but, the reporter's doing this. I'm getting blown over. And then somebody's like doing cartwheels behind them and like nothing.
Yeah,
it's like all the flags behind them are like this instead of being like that.
Yeah.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it? Keep yapping, man.
Come on, man.
I remember. I've talked about this before. Is it Peter Ducey is the son?
Yeah. Peter Ducey. Steve Ducey is the father. Okay. Peter Ducey is the son.
So this is before he was the White House correspondent. I guess he was just getting on Fox News.
I think Lucy Ducey is the grandma, isn't she?
If it was Martha's Vineyard or Nantucket. But it was like Labor Day weekend, and they scheduled to do a 20-minute cut to Peter Ducey every 20 minutes. And it was as beautiful a Labor Day weekend as you could ever have. Just the picturesque, waterfront. You got the reeds, just the most picturesque New England waterfront you could ever see. And Peter Ducey is like, he's doing the live hit, and it's like, and we're out to Peter Ducey on Nantucket, where there's a, tropical storm, whatever hitting, or nor'easter. He's like, no wind, no rain, just beautiful sun. And there was a bridal party like goofing off around behind him and stuff. It was the biggest laugh. But it's like they schedule hurricane coverage or, tropical storm coverage, and they check that box and they go with that story no matter what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, somebody's bringing up the strong winds that blew Biden down.
Well, I actually looked up because I got this thing from the FAA that says I'm a pilot and I'm supposed to be able to know weather. And I think
dude,
the winds.
I don't know how you got that, but go ahead.
Yeah, and so the historical wind data, not predicted, the historical wind data at that airport was it Dover, I believe.
Yes,
was 7 knots, I think, gusting. No, I think it was 4 knots gusting to 7. So that's kind of about the velocity of a sneeze.
Well, that's my airport. A lot of people don't know that, and that's fake news. The wind was actually quite higher. It's because Dover sits in this bowl, and because of the flat Earth, and the geospheric wind shear, it's usually 3 to 4 times what a normal reading would be at that airport. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that, but since I own the place, I'm privy to that information. Of course, I have to be.
Yeah, you talk about flat earthers are freaking hilarious.
They were the best flat earther I've seen. I can't find the video anymore, but he was commenting. He was doing voiceover commentary on a SpaceX landing. It's like, oh, look at that pencil. You see, it's flat because it's round and it's flat. You see the SpaceX ship above the Earth, and you can see the curvature. It's like they're faking that. That's fake, and you can see it's flat.
Yeah, they claim that it's fisheye cameras and stuff. There was that one flat earther who tried to shoot himself up in the rocket.
All right, so the guy's name was Richard Hughes, I think.
Did you guys see that?
Yeah. So his first rocket.
The freaking parachute didn't open. Well,
the first rocket attempt actually worked. It's the second one that killed him. Which
the parachute came off when it launched. It fell off.
He went to like 300 feet or something in the rocket. It was just something stupid. You get an airline, you can fly 30,000 feet. Whoa! You can look out the window. What's that was just a more technically advanced version of Jackass. What was the guy's name that did Jackass?
Johnny Knoxville.
Johnny Knoxville. He was just a more technical version of Johnny Knoxville.
Yeah, dude. When that parachute came off, I was like, uh-oh.
But we all know the Earth isn't flat, and I can tell you why. Do you know why?
Because we have brains and no
because
other planet
if it was flat, cats would have knocked everything off the edge.
Are we done? Are we done with the flat Earth already?
I think we should be. I think Rich.
That was supposed to have been a quick comical quip on my part. Say that 5 times real fast, and y'all turned it into an entire segment that people out there don't want to listen to. So anyway. No, you mentioned AmCon earlier, right? So
yes.
I'm curious. I'm curious, right? Because here's something that aggravates me. So you put out the thing, and you was like, "Oh, this is cool bio thing for AmCon and blah 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 blah." And so I'm like, "Well, cool. Where's mine?" Right? And it's not there. Right? They asked me for my whatever you call it, the photo and the bio and all the other stuff.
They did. I don't know where they got mine from. I didn't give them anything.
And as far as being invited on any of them's podcast or I'm the redheaded stepchild of AmCon and of the 2A community, I think. I really am. And I'll wear the badge proudly because I can complain about it like I am here. But I feel that way. The old guard. So let me back up. They probably do now. Yeah. After I complained. But here's the thing. So eventually some of these people are going to have to, and they're slowly doing it, whether it's with you, and don't get me wrong, you're not in what I would consider the young crew, John, but like Locked and Loaded Latinos, for example, right? Yehuda falls into that a little bit, but some of the old guard is going to have to step back, and play support role to some of the younger crowd. And at this point, I'm not even putting myself in that capacity of the younger crowd, but I already play a support role with a lot of different folks out there, right? So it's nothing new for me. And I think that they need to do that, and I'm speaking directly to, people know who I'm talking to. They know. And I think that AmCon could be better. I think as far as GRPC, things could be better. I just see so much room for improvement because it seems like it's the same old thing, the status quo, and they never shake anything up. And that's not attractive to the new generations coming in. And at some point, where do we come to terms with that, right? At some point, where do we realize that?
I think we need to realize that sooner than later.
I agree.
Now, are you saying Hickok 45 needs to turn it over to his grandson?
Hickok 45, who cares about Hickok 45? Let him do his Bud's gunshot videos and whatever, and go quietly into the night. That's all we care about with him. Anyway.
There's a youngin' out there. He says, Clover helps me so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Shooting Alley New England Joe, great guy. I have him on. I make a concerted effort to try to get those the younger crowd on the show as much as possible.
No, I've never helped Joe, so he wouldn't say that in public. So,
But that's why I try to make a concerted effort to get the younger crowd on the show.
So what are you speaking on, John, at AmCon? FOIAs?
FOIAs. Yeah,
Yeah,
FOIAs and investigative journalism.
mm-hmm.
So do you find it at all pointless to talk about that at AmCon? Let's be honest here. Let's be open and honest.
So many people at AmCom have asked me, like, just looking at the speakers, about how to do a FOIA, and I've walked several of them through how to do a FOIA.
Yeah.
So I think it's just something that they want to know. Whether they put it into practice or not, I don't know. But you can FOIA yourself. I mean, FOIAs is one of the most powerful tools that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times I write about stuff that I get through FOIAs, and people ask me, "Man, how did you get that?" I was like, "I asked for it," And so
a lot of times, John has the original document in his hand, unredacted.
Usually, I do. No, but I'm going to go through FOIAs. If they don't take anything out of it, they don't take anything out of it. But I think that we need to get really good being a 2A community, not only for the journalism part, but for the activism part to learn how to do FOIAs.
I just see so many that demonize the NRA for raising money, and basically all they do is infotainment. Let's get some views or some downloads or some whatever. You know what I mean? And I see so much of that with quote unquote 2A creators in general, right? Now, I make no bones about it, right? I mean, I've never said I was an activist. I've never billed myself as such. I will not speak at AmCon as an activist. Part of my presentation, I've been tweaking it along the way. Never once do I say I'm a 2A activist. You go to my channel and you will find predominantly gun reviews and educational stuff and things like that, except for when the time calls, like constitutional carry in Texas and other things. The time calls for me to shift gears and do my part as an online content creator to get the word out. But I guess what I say is my aggravation is with those that not only do they consider themselves the pinnacle of 2A activism, and people are free to consider themselves in whatever light they want to. They can either be humble or they can blow it completely out of proportion. And also the viewers, the listeners, the downloaders, the followers hold them up on this pedestal when in reality they're not. So that's why I say it makes me wonder how many are interested at all. They may be interested in the process of FOIAs, right? But it makes me wonder how many are actually interested in the practical application of FOIAs and investigative journalism and all that, because it doesn't fit their whatever, their modum operandi, right? That is just getting views, whipping the base into frenzy, blah 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 blah, right?
I mean, I can't guarantee that they're gonna walk away and start FOIAing stuff. But if one or two start doing that, maybe we can grow that a little bit.
That'd be a good video, John.
Doing FOIA requests? Yeah, I did a video on FOIA requests, and it's like my least popular video ever.
There you go. It doesn't surprise me. So let me ask you this. Let's shift gears a little bit. Are you going live? Are you going there and you're going to be there live, or are you one of these people that are phoning it in?
I have to. I'm going to be streaming live. My wife is on standby for deployment, so I'll be a single dad most likely.
Okay.
With like no kids.
Well, that sucks. I mean, I haven't heard.
Nobody watch my kids.
I haven't heard how many people are phoning it in, right? But I was told that there was several people that was going to do that, and I'm like, then what's the point of showing up in person in Fort Worth at this thing? And I've got other engagements because for whatever reason, it's the same exact weekend as USCCA, and now it's the same exact weekend as the NRA meetings. Right.
And
which
the IV 8888.
Yeah, I forgot about that. But yeah, that too. So it's like, could we?
And in the machine gun shoot. last
could
one.
we possibly stack anything else on top of anything else? And I don't understand. That gets back to the mentality and the thinking of all this. If you've got people phoning it in, why don't we just do virtual, right? And be done with it. What's the point of everybody or very few people meeting up? I'm going. I'll be there, but it's going to be interesting to see how many people are actually there, right? Because you've got USCCA, and again, I don't build myself as an activism, so I have obligations at USCCA, right? And so I'm going to have to figure out how to finagle things. Thankfully, they're both in Fort Worth, but I'm going to have to figure out how to finagle things, whether I go in and knock out some of the USCCA stuff Friday evening and then do it maybe knock out the rest of it Friday morning before my presentation. Saturday morning before I before I do my presentation Saturday evening for AmCon. But that means I'm going to miss the vast majority of AmCon, right? I'm going to miss everything up until the point that my presentation is there. So I really don't want to do that. The great news is they're supposed to be streaming it, which hopefully will be recorded in replay. And I can, once I get home or whatever, I can go back and hopefully catch the rest of it. And
I think it's going to be through SAF's YouTube page. Oh, yeah. They're also the Palmetto State Armory has an event that weekend, and so does BDU.
Yeah. Wonderful.
I don't know why everyone picked the same damn weekend.
I don't either, man. I don't either.
Because the weather's nice. There's going to be no hurricanes.
And I think Red October is that weekend as well.
Maybe. I don't know. It just seems crazy to split focus so bad.
Yeah, I got invited to a bunch of stuff that weekend, and I can't do any of it. So,
yep,
it's all good. It's the lifestyle we signed up for.
All right.
But I hope people get something out of it. I'm not sure. What are you going to be speaking about?
Patreon.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Why does my Patreon get deactivated? Or goes dormant?
Probably because you're posting links like John is shilling every chance you get, every 5 minutes, and playing commercials and other things like that right there.
That's my Patreon.
Are you talking about as a user, or are you talking about as a creator?
As a creator, yeah. It seems like my account goes dormant. It's like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Do you have patrons?
Yeah. Yep.
How often do you have patrons and it goes dormant?
Yep.
I don't know. We need to get into it and take a look. That sounds to me like a consultation right there.
Yeah.
How often do you post?
On Patreon?
Mm-hmm.
Probably I forget about it, and that's why it goes dormant.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Number one, if you're not going to participate on Patreon, then you might as well not really have a Patreon, because that's the point. Mm-hmm. The number one misconception. I don't want to go into my whole basically, or get it through Super Chat or whatever, because the Patreon, there's this false narrative. And let me back up. It's not false, right? There's some truth to it. That you ask people, what is Patreon? And they go, oh, well, it's a way for me to shield, and get money from my viewers and blah, 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 right? They never mention the platform aspect of it. They never mention the backlinks available through search engine and other things that are created when you post to Patreon. And it's just a variety of other things, from integrating your store to tier level perks to just all the different things you can do on Patreon as a platform. It's overlooked. I mean, 99% of people are going to tell you, oh, it's an e-begging site, it's funding mechanism. And it's so much more than that. And because most people have that mentality from a creator, I guess, standpoint, they move into Patreon, and that's what they use it for. I mean, they use it for less than 50%, less than 20% probably of its capability. And by doing that, it leads to, like you say, accounts being Snowbird, whatever you want to call it, right? Mark Dormant. That leads to that leads to people getting discouraged because they'll go over there, they'll open a Patreon, they won't mention their Patreon, they won't say anything about their Patreon, they won't utilize their Patreon, they won't share stuff from their Patreon, and at that point, if you don't understand it at least somewhat, and you don't use most, if not all, of the aspects over there, then what are you over there for? And I'll go even a step further and say, if you support people on Patreon, two things. If you support people on Patreon that are not giving you stuff through Patreon, why are you supporting them? Whether you require that or not, and most people that support others, because I do, and I'll get to this in a minute, I do support other people on Patreon as well. Most people that support people on Patreon, they don't expect anything, right? I don't.
Right.
I throw my money out over there. If you post something, if you give me extra, cool, but I'm not over there demanding it, right? But still, I'm of the mind, if I'm supporting you on Patreon and you never post anything, I never get an email, I never get a notification. Your time is limited. I'm eventually going to throw my money to somebody else, right? That's at least trying, because, like I said, it's a bigger picture idea. If you're not working Patreon for the people that are actively supporting you, the most loyal of your subscribers, viewers, followers, listeners, downloaders, whatever, the most loyal core of your audience is going to be on Patreon. And if you're not working for them, then are you working are you doing anything on your channel that's actually trying to grow and get the word out and do what you're supposed to be doing as a creator? I've got to question that, right? The second thing, as a supporter on Patreon, is if you support people that don't support other people. And I'll tell you right now, I know for a fact there are people that are on Patreon that will tell you they support people that don't. They're liars.
So
straight up liars.
I've actually never taken a
and-
dollar out of Patreon. I've always, everything I get in Patreon goes to other channels.
Well, that's passing the buck. I don't do that, right? So yes, I support other people, and yes, it does come out of my Patreon money. That's how they do it, right? They deduct it. If you're a creator and you support other people, before you get paid, they deduct your support from that, right? From that number. So while the support I throw at people initially comes out of that, it gets put back when it flows over and they make the payment and go to Patreon. Whatever my monthly total shows every month before that, not counting the 10% fee or whatever it is, but before that, the gross number, that is what gets funneled over. If I have to funnel that from super chats or YouTube ad money or the swag store revenue or whatever, I put that over because I don't want. It's just organization on my standpoint. Ultimately, does it matter? I mean, it all gets spent on the channel and everything else. No, ultimately it doesn't. But as far as organization on my point, I want to be able to show that, I'm not taking your Patreon support and then just passing the buck to somebody else. If I was going to do that, then why would I not just advocate that you support X, Y, and Z and just tell you, hey, instead of you giving me, $1, $5, $10, whatever it is a month, why don't you throw it over here to John instead, or Rich, or Rogue out there, or whoever, right?
Have you heard anything about locals?
I haven't played around with it much, so no, I'm not the foremost authority on locals for sure.
It's I actually like it a lot. You can do Patreons, but they also have like stuff where you can have like live chats, post videos. Your users can post videos to your community and whatnot. It's pretty nice.
YouTube used to be able to do a video reply, but that's gone. That feature's long gone.
G-Webs don't like locals apparently, but I follow 28EDU over at locals, and I think it's a really, really cool platform.
Well, there's a lot of different ones out there, and they are coming along. It's nice to have some options. A lot of people use alternative platform stuff, unfortunately, because they don't understand the platform they're on. They're the platform that they're quote unquote having a problem with. Patreon, I mean, with any platform, it's their house, their rules. And anytime you're dealing with a platform and it being online and you've got a mass user base and other things, you have certain protections that have to be in play. And unfortunately, to be able to do that, it requires policy. And sometimes things get swept up in said policy. Most of the demonization, for example, that has gone on with Patreon, first of all, Patreon being tied to PayPal, when PayPal was integrated with eBay, especially, was problematic from a firearm standpoint. That's no longer the case, which is great. But a lot of the stuff going on with Patreon, and by the way, Patreon does, I don't want to turn this into necessarily a Patreon chat, but Patreon does, with their CEOs and everything else, does some open forum chat stuff pretty regularly. So it's not like they're not being transparent and you don't have the opportunity to talk with those people. But
they got one coming up, I think.
Yeah. But anyway, you're beholden to, your processing company or whatever at some point, right? If you're not your own processor, then, you've got to do what they say and you got to play by their rules, unfortunately. Right. So it's not necessarily a decision that Patreon's making. And one of the biggest sticks is I've seen, especially a lot of the larger creators, that they will point to and say, oh, look, they deleted my post on Patreon, or they suspended my account, or they did this, or they did that. And then you go and look at it and they're posting their stupid affiliate link, pimp and shill links and discount codes and whatever. And it's blatantly, why do you need to post that on Patreon?
Well,
why?
Locals,
because you already, they're doing it to spit in the face. Here's the thing. They are, I want to say literally, and it's not, right? I almost said that. But some of these bigger channels and stuff, they will shoot themselves in the foot and they go, oh, look what XYZ did to me. And they're the ones that did it, right? And so they intentionally post stuff and they intentionally, blatantly break policy and the rules. And then when they get smacked for it, they cry. And unfortunately, the viewers, the followers, the subscribers, the downloaders, the people out there, unfortunately, they lap that crap up. They eat it up and they swaddle them in a blanket and they rock them in a rocking chair and go, oh, you poor little massive creator, is a platform picking on you. And instead of going, you idiot, you're a channel with hundreds of thousands of subscribers or millions of subscribers. You don't know what policy says over there, right? They don't call it for what it is. And so that gets back into, we sort of come full circle, right, to the conversation we had with mainstream media and how, the drama is just played up. If it bleeds, it leads, whatever the thing is, and how that bleeds over into the online world as well. And unfortunately, the audience out there, because I keep saying the downloaders, the viewers, the subscribers, the followers, the audience needs to be a better audience. You guys need to, because I watch stuff too, we need to hold them accountable and call them out on their crap when they're when they're trying to play the audience. And I don't know, I see that so much and it's aggravating. And is that popular? No, because that's going to tick off people out there that are the audience, because their ears are burning because I'm talking about them, and that's going to tick off creators. And that's probably why, going back into this whole thing, I feel like sometimes I'm the redheaded stepchild of the 2A world. That's probably why, is because I'm highly opinionated. But you know what? When you understand these platforms and entities, people inside these platforms and everything else, and some of the behind the scenes when certain people are just blatantly lying to their audience, it's hard. It's hard to keep your mouth shut at some point and not say something about it.
Can I play devil's advocate?
I don't think you look enough like Al Pacino, but
that's a good movie.
I guess I will allow it. Yeah.
Some people I have seen make comments on some of your videos when you're talking about YouTube and stuff that you are, I don't know, like a YouTube apologist, I guess would be the best way of saying it. Mm-hmm. What would you say to I know you've seen it too.
Well, that's easy for somebody that doesn't know what I know to say. That's the easiest way to answer that question, right? So here's the thing. I mean, you can call me whatever, and I get comments quite often that I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to YouTube, because if I did, I would have 1 million subscribers. Well, let me ask you something. So if Albert Einstein was alive today and he created a channel right now about physics, do you think he would have 1 million subscribers tomorrow in YouTube's climate? Would Albert freaking Einstein have 1 million subscribers on his physics channel tomorrow on YouTube, or next month, or even a year from now? Probably
I bet he
not.
would.
Probably
I bet
not.
he would.
Likely not.
I think he would.
I don't see it. I don't see it. Right. And it's just because of the climate. It's because of the saturation. It's because of the algorithm. It's because of another thing. But anyway, my point being, until he got to that, right? So Albert Einstein is creating YouTube content, and he is at 500 subscribers, and somebody comes on and he's got a video, and they say, "You're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about." It's Albert freaking Einstein. What do you mean? Just because you only have a certain amount of subscribers doesn't mean that you don't know what you're doing. The second part of that is that it's a split focus issue, right? So if you've got Albert Einstein and he has his knowledge, so let me pose this question. You said, okay, you bet he would. Well, what if Albert Einstein had so many projects going, he was only able to upload, let's say, 1 video a month on that particular physics channel, and he had split focus not only with his regular life, but he had split focus with that channel, was only able to upload 1 video a month. He really didn't have time to research trends and the platforms and the other things. On top of that, he had several other channels where he talked about cars or space exploration or microparticles or the quantum realm or whatever it might be, right? And he worked other platforms,
didn't you?
And he worked other platforms and other social media outlets and all as well, right? So he's got all of this split focus. Does that change the dynamic of how quickly he becomes a big channel on YouTube? And is that any reflection on the knowledge he has about the subject?
I think you still have 1 million subs.
John just wants to argue.
Yeah. Hey,
I told you we were going to play devil's advocate.
I can't believe you outed me when I was crying about all my videos getting deleted by YouTube, you know?
I know, right? Well, you don't see a lot of the videos get deleted.
No, I had an issue at Clover. I called Clover up. We talked about it, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to take my lumps and walk away and shut up about it.
Yeah.
Do you think a problem is that a lot of people at YouTube who work at YouTube, whatnot, just doesn't understand guns, like with the whole
I think, okay, it's a really simple answer if you think about it, right? Okay, throw all your biases and throw all your people riling you up on other channels and whatever it might be, throw all that out the window, right? And first of all, and calm down, right? Cross your legs, put on some soothing music, get into a state of zen, and try to see this from a rational point, right? First of all, YouTube, Google, however you want to put it, massive infrastructure, employees, tech, massive on a scale that I can hardly fathom, right? Me, with decades in the IT world, right? Massive on such a scale, I can barely fathom it, let alone the rank and file viewer or creator or whoever, right? So that doesn't hardly even know tech. They shoot stuff from their cell phone in vertical, whatever the case may be, right? They're not learning their craft and the platform and everything else, which is something I think is very important for a creator. And it leads you down this path of better understanding. So first of all, massive structure, the likes of which the world's never seen before. Well, I'm sure companies will come up and get that big in the future. So put that down as number one, and then compare that. Okay, what is another company that kind of has that same look, right? Outside looking in, I would say McDonald's, correct? So McDonald's is a massive company. You would agree with that, correct? Okay. Sure. Mm-hmm. Look at the quality of employee at McDonald's.
They must work at my bank also.
Seriously. So, people are going, oh, YouTube, like the CEO of YouTube is cackling and flipping switches and causing trouble just for the gun community. And they think that's what it's like, a Dr. Evil moment. And it's like, you don't understand. Every little thing that happens in YouTube, they have tens of thousands of employees on one team that works on one specific part of the platform and stuff, right? and nobody on that team understands 100% of even of what they're working on. It's so complex, and it's insane. Well, then you've got the rank and file support people, and the algorithm will trip something that'll get sent to a that'll get sent to a human review. And then what happens when that gets sent to a human review? Is there potential bias there? Yes, 100%. Okay, I'm not gonna sidestep that there is the potential for employees to be biased and act on bias. I am not going to for a second say that doesn't exist. That can exist anywhere. And that's certainly true with YouTube as well. But is it more likely that's the case amongst thousands and thousands of employees, or it's more likely the case that they're going to err on the side of caution based on their ignorance, number one? Or number two, I'm in a hurry. It's lunchtime or it's quitting time. So click.
Yeah.
Right.
Drew Bailey says his primary channel had 139 subs, and it was about fabrication and machining. And YouTube deleted it with no strikes, no warnings for one TOS rule violation.
I'll be happy to try to look into something. If you've got specifics, you can reach out to me.
Sure, was that recently? 139,000 subs, that's big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fabrication and machining of what? See, I don't get no specifics. We talking firearms?
I'm thinking there was a what issue.
That's firearms. Fabricating and machining of firearms have been a policy issue for a while. So,
yeah, we'll work on that and see what we can do there. I mean, I'm not going to work on it because I don't know anybody at YouTube.
Well, I'd be happy to look into it, just like I have looked into many things for a lot of different people. But I will tell you,
sometimes YouTube does make mistakes, though.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, but I will get in. No, YouTube makes mistakes. Not sometimes. YouTube makes mistakes on a regular basis. Inconsistency is a huge problem. I've been back and forth with YouTube today, a dozen communications one way or another, back and forth on some inconsistency issues dealing with a rogue banshee that was out there in the chat. So there, it's a problem, and they know it's a problem, the inconsistency, right? But the what's it saying? Yet they're about. Oh, so here we go. We've got the yet argument, right? So
no, what he's saying is his channel got deleted, but 12 of his videos were downloaded and re-uploaded from Asian sites.
Why was that not reported?
Well, his channel is, so he can't put a copyright claim
in.
And his channel was not about fire alarms.
Okay. So here's the thing. If it's not about firearms, I don't know what good I can be, because that's the problem with YouTube, is that we don't have enough direct communications with the nuances with every individual niche, right? And helping them to understand and be able to navigate from a policy standpoint those nuances, right? So, I'll say this first off. One of the things we do is we read YouTube policy or the terms of service or whatever it might be. Understand that there are various policies at play with YouTube, right? It's not just one overarching terms of service or policy. You've got the advertiser-friendly guidelines. You've got advertising guidelines. You've got terms of service. You've got the community guidelines. You've got guidelines as it pertains to search and discovery, which includes some of the age restriction stuff and things like that. Multiple things. Now, there's a lot of crossover and overlap with all of that, but understand that you've got multiple things at play. And so the problem is when we start saying, well, this is okay in this niche, but it's not okay in another niche. Well, why? Where's the nuances? And I think that we need, it's a suggestion for about a year now. I've been putting out to YouTube. I'm like, look, you guys need creator liaisons. You need people like myself, right? That communicate with you on a regular basis, and have arguably, I guess you could say arguably affected some change on the platform. I know 2A-EDU out there, John, you, Rich, other people would say that they have affected some change on the platform, at least for specific channels. But what we're going to do is we're going to pull in those. We're going to pull in this makeup creator, this LGBTQ creator, or whatever, that really understands the space that they're operating in as a creator. And they're going to be a liaison, and they're going to help YouTube to understand the creator to understand YouTube. Because what happens is you take these policies and we look at them from a firearm content creator standpoint, right? Well, a firearm content creator didn't write that policy. So that would be the same. We like to talk about the Constitution a lot. That would be the same as a more liberal person giving a modern interpretation of the Constitution. And we would throw a fit, right? We would say, oh, whoa, it's original intent. We got to go back to what the founders were thinking when they wrote that. Well, in the same light, we've got to think about, what is YouTube thinking? What is the spirit of the policy? What was going through their mind? What were they trying to accomplish when they wrote this policy? We can't look at it from our eyes and with our beer goggles on and perspective, right? And it's silly. I mean, it's don't get me wrong. The policy across the board, no matter what dish you're talking about, there are various problematic areas and pitfalls within policy. What I will say with the channel out there real quick that was talking about the 12 videos. I don't know how many videos they had on their channel total, right? But all you need in order for something to come down with policy, terms of service, and again, I'll be happy to try to help to the extent I can once I'm able to get some more specifics with this. And this is not the forum, obviously, with the side chatting out there to try to do it. I'm not even hardly watching the side chat, unfortunately. But for that Asian channel, whatever it is, to steal 12 videos, well, if you had 200 videos, well, maybe they stole 12, and 12 is not a large enough sample within their channel to be problematic. Makes sense? Whereas 12 on your channel combined with another 30 or 40 was enough to garner attention either from the algorithm or from human eyes or whatever the case may be to be problematic. You can skate under the radar for a long time. But here's the thing, and this is what I was getting at, and he didn't really put it out this way, but I hear this, so I'm not digging. I don't even remember the name of the person out there that was talking about this. By the way, hit me up, CloverTac@gmail.com, and we'll touch base on the phone or something and talk about it if we need to. But what a lot of people will say,
videos on his channel.
They will say, yeah, see, 12 videos out of 1,400. Yeah, that's not enough sample that if that was ported over to something else, it was necessarily going to cause a problem, at least not right away. It's not going to be problematic. But if there was a common thread against 600 or 700 or even a few hundred, right, of the videos on that channel, then regardless of those 12, it could be problematic. So the issue that that we're looking at when we talk about I lost my train of thought, man. It threw me off. Where was I going with it? I know, right? Golly. I've been talking too fast. Go ahead. I'm going to take a break.
Thank you to A2A for the $5 super chat. He says, Clover has and still is helping me understand a lot. It can seem ominous at times.
Yeah. And it's super frustrating, right? I never discount that fact.
Sometimes when I'm like, well, it's written this way, the policy, you're like, yeah, but that's not the way it's enforced.
Right. So, well, if it's enforced at all, and or enforced.
Clover, you want to talk about my issue as a for instance?
Yeah. You'll have to refresh my memory a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, no worries. So I 3D printed the parts for a Glock bullpup, and the video actually, I had a rubber band around it holding them together. So there was a slide on top of it, and you could see as I moved it, all the parts were wiggling around. I pulled the rubber band off, I pulled the pieces off, and I just showed the components. It's not like I showed how to build it. There was a substantial amount of parts missing. The slide was hollow. There was no none of the internals were in the slide. There was no sights on the slide. There was a barrel, but no recoil spring, none of that. And I had uploaded the video, forgot about it. Like uploaded in the morning, and I was on a road trip, and it's like later that evening, and I'm like, ooh, I've been doing 10 videos in 10 days. Let me upload this video. And I log in as I'm in the passenger seat, and I look, and the video's been pulled down because it violated the terms of service. Now, this wasn't a live video. I did the same thing on the live video, and they pulled the live video. I'm like, all right, I get it. I violated the rules, or I could see them seeing that I violated the rules.
You could see where they made it. You could see where they
Yes.
made the mistake if it was. Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, hey, this is a recorded video. Even if it was a real firearm, that shouldn't have been an issue. I didn't violate any rules. I know they seem to be sensitive to the bullpup word. And I didn't show how to manufacture anything, or I mean, it couldn't have even been like a field strip video because there were no rails or anything in it to field strip.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but because I have so many conversations with so many creators, Rich, so you have to forgive me about that. But
no worries,
wasn't there context is a huge thing, and I want to get onto this. Remind me, John, if I forget to talk about the latest video I've got dropped, which is on the Mossberg 940 Snow Goose, and I actually partially disassemble and assemble that shotgun in a video. I want to explain something related to context in that, which will help a lot of folks out. But for your purposes, Rich, wasn't there something you said in there? Didn't you? Isn't that what I said? Is that you said something like this? I just 3D printed this or something to that effect.
Yeah, I may have mentioned the way to manufacture it, the process. Yeah, I may have said something about 3D printing. That's correct. It might have been a verbal thing. Yeah,
and so context is huge, right? So policy states that you can't show the process or give any information on the making basically of a firearm, right? I don't have the policy in front of me. I can't cite it verbatim, but that's ultimately the spirit of what they're getting at is they don't want people showing how to build guns. Joe with Shooting Gallery in New England out there figured that out. And he's a moron, and I hope you don't mind me saying that because I love him, but he's a moron because it said right there in his title, like how to build an AR-15. And I'm like, dude, why don't you just paint a big target on yourself? But anyway, so yeah, context is important. And getting back to what I was talking about with the latest video on the channel, I actually went through some channels and got some advice before I did that. You'll notice on the channel, it's been a long time since I've showed the internals of a firearm, taken anything apart, put it together. And part of the reason that I did that is I wanted to, I want to help, right? That's my goal. I don't want to help creators circumvent. I don't want to help creators circumvent policy. I want to help creators work within the policy at the same time that I'm helping YouTube understand how their policies are badly worded and put out and affect creators to help them change policy, which has been a lot of the talk communication back and forth today. I've talked about for a lot of time that I expect some firearm policy changes before the end of the year, and I still do. I think last quarter, hopefully we can see some change and some shift in it. But going back to that, context is important. So with the disassembly, and spoiler alert for that video, go over there and watch it after I'm done talking, just so the spoiler makes sense. But there was an issue with this shotgun, and I had to disassemble it to the point of normal cleaning and maintenance, right? And pretty much most of us in here are gun guys. We know how to disassemble and put back together a semi-automatic shotgun. It's pretty standard. But there's a little tweak or trick to this Mossberg that can be problematic if it's overlooked, if you're not used to some of the more modern weird designs, right, of semi-automatic stuff. So I had to show that. It's like, this is a safety issue. If somebody gets this shotgun and they take it apart to clean it and maintain things, and they put it back together and they don't put it back together right, and they overlook this, it could be a big safety issue. Now, hey, YouTube, you don't want people out here injuring themselves, correct? YouTube is a huge resource for education in that capacity and everything, correct? And all of those answers, of course, were yes. And I was like, okay, well, how do we do this? And it boiled down to context. So multiple times in that video, you will hear me say cleaning and maintenance. You will hear me say, we're looking for I'm going to show you the problem. I am taking this apart to demonstrate to you where this problem lies. I'm not saying, hey, let's build a shotgun. Here's how you put it all together. Context. context matters. So if you're legit doing that, if you're trying again to circumvent policy by lying and saying you're cleaning and maintaining when you're actually building, then I can't help you with that. But if you're legit interested in education and showing how to field strip, which is what John or Rich or somebody mentioned earlier, showing somebody how to field strip to clean and stuff like that, break out a cleaning rod and actually run a patch through it. Break out, give some context, right? We're going to do this for clean. We're just not going to tell you how to take the slide off. We're not going to tell you how to field strip. We're going to show you how to field strip so you can clean and maintain. It's that context that adds. You feel me? It's that context that adds. So here's the thing. There's two perks to this. The first perk is obvious in that it can help the uneducated person at YouTube understand what's going on. And they go, oh, this is cleaning and maintenance. It's routine. It falls under policy. He's not building anything. He's cleaning and maintaining something. Okay, cool. Not a problem. The algorithm was wrong, the whatever. The second thing that I think we overlook as firearm content creators is we overlook the vast number of new people, not that's just come into the community in the last year, but that will continue to come into the community as long as our content is on the YouTube platform. And so by glossing over context, are we doing a disservice to the new people that may be on the same education level as far as firearm because they're new as the people in YouTube? So context, great context in your video serves two very important, in my opinion, purposes.
All right. Yeah, there's tons of people out there who agree with you and some that don't agree with you. One of the points that a lot of people are making is that it seems like YouTube keeps on moving the goalpost.
Okay, they said seems like. So I get you, but when you say seems like, that's from your perspective. And who do you know at YouTube? What is your education level? How do you understand YouTube? And do you have the correct knowledge to say that YouTube works this way or that way? So again, you get into, I welcome any private conversation with anybody to start to jump down those rabbit holes. And John, you know what I'm talking about. Rich does, 2AEDU, Joe out there, Rogue, G, everybody, there's tons of people out in the chat that understand what I'm saying with that, right? So I get it. But the issue, I think, why people see that, right? Because I'm not discounting that people see that, just like I don't discount the frustration. I think people say that YouTube hasn't moved any goalposts because policy hasn't changed. Policy hasn't changed I guess the last change was the live streaming in the firearms, right? Which has been what, well over a year ago now, a couple years, maybe.
I think it might be 2 years or so.
Yeah, it's been a while. That's the last actual policy update. That's why I'm excited that hopefully we will see a policy update for the better before the end of the year. So what breeds
Can you give us any hint?
What breeds that type of it will deal most likely with the idea of modification, and it will deal most likely, and this is speculation on my part, right? First of all, because I don't pull any levers or buttons or anything else at YouTube. So this is what would be my speculation, right? I'm getting there on this. So let me ask that question again in a second, John. So what breeds the frustration and what breeds it seems like they move the goalpost is the inconsistencies of policy application, right? That is because not everybody has the level of education and understanding in YouTube to be able to properly apply the policy to the context of the video, right?
I'll tell you, you're pissing people off.
Well, I mean, oh well.
I'm gonna set a record for thumbs down.
Well, good. I mean, the truth hurts. People don't like hearing it, and that's fine. But my point is, when you talk about when they talk again about the goalpost moving, so they're not moving as far as the written rules of the game. So they're not moving the goalpost. It's just that you've got a bunch of ignorant referees. Would be if we're going to use a goalpost in a sports analogy, we got referees of all different levels of competence, right, at play on the field, and so it makes things difficult, and it makes things frustrating. So two areas that are very frustrating. One having to do with the links. We've got sight scopes, stocks, and grips, which are mentioned verbatim in the policy. that do not line up in the spirit of the policy. So the spirit of the policy, that particular section, is that YouTube doesn't want you linking to things that are regulated, right? They don't want you linking to things that may be okay in Maryland, but they're not in Texas, or they may be okay in Texas, but not in Maryland. Good Lord, that was backwards.
I think it
Right.
goes more than that. I think it goes like with the scopes, at least. Some stuff is regulated by ITAR for export.
They're almost ignorant when you get into that. Yeah, ITAR and lasers and things like that. I think they have no clue about that anyway. And that's more of an international thing, right? But you got to realize too, YouTube is an international entity, an international platform. But anyway, the problem, the spirit there is more of that was designed, and that's why the first items are firearms, ammunition, magazines. I mean, all that has some type of federal regulation around it, blah, blah, blah. And here's the thing, don't mix, because a lot of people put this on me and it's not fair. They mix my explanations of YouTube and the policy and their spirit of the policy and other things with like compliance, and I wish the government would regulate all this. Okay, the government and YouTube, you've got to separate those two. One is a company, and we're trying to get them to understand and make life in the YouTube ecosystem easier for gun tubers. The other one is the government, who directly affects our lives, right? YouTube could go away tomorrow, and quite honestly, I mean, I get that a lot of people make their living on YouTube, but they could flip burgers at McDonald's, or they could do something to earn money, and the world would still turn without YouTube. Eventually, YouTube will die, it will morph, it will get replaced, just like any other platform has, right? The federal government is something that we definitely have to keep a check on, because that affects our day-to-day lives. So anyway, back to the, I guess the topic or the task that we were discussing here is like, when, how do I want to put this? What's the best way to put this? Dang, we've been down so many rabbit holes with this. I forgot where I was
talking
at.
Rules change was the thing you want to get back
to. Rules change. Yeah, I wanted to get to what John was talking about. So the problem areas where it seems like they're moving the goalpost is, again, it's massive inconsistency. I know for a fact they're aware of that at all levels of the company. They're aware of the inconsistencies, and they really are trying to do it. But you got to realize that we are not the only niche. We're not the only creators. There's like 400 hours of videos uploaded every minute to YouTube. Again, the scale and the massive scale and stuff I mentioned earlier. It's just it's a hard bull to take down, hard bull to wrangle, right? So the two things that move the goalpost the most, as it pertains to policy and the spirit of the policy, is site scopes, grips, and stocks, which are readily available on Amazon, have no, that I know of, age requirements. You could literally send your 5-year-old daughter or granddaughter into the gun store to buy you a scope. That being mixed in with ammunition, firearms, and magazines, which do fall under federal and or some type of state regulation, right? So the first thing is to get that separated, because that's muddying the water with these people that are not educated, and they're looking at policy. Well, they're throwing basically any accessory in with things that are regulated. You feel what I'm saying? The second thing is this idea of modification, and I hit on that with my Mossberg 940 video, that there's certain things when you disassemble a firearm and put it back together. And I actually had a conversation. I've talked about this many times. It's one of the first conversations that I ever had with YouTube, that I had people not in rank and file support levels either, which is disturbing yet understandable, that literally asked me, why would you need to disassemble a firearm? And I'm like, why do you need to clean the lint out of your dryer? Why do you need to replace the brakes on your car? Right? It's like, it's a machine. You have, at some point, it has to be cleaned and maintained and whatever, right? It's a safety issue, blah, blah, blah. And it was a light bulb that went off for them, right? So I think the modification part of policy, and I think the links portion of policy, specifically when it comes to readily available accessories, I think that's going to be the first thing we see morph and change with policy to our benefit. Again, I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, hey, I'll accept it. And you got to realize too, it's a slow process. We talked about how huge YouTube is, and the sheer cost involved with having to train employees on policy, when you have tens and tens and thousands of employees, if you tweak one little piece of policy, you've got to try to train all of those employees, right, on those policy changes. They've got to be aware. It's not just an inter-office memo that goes out. No, if they get it, right? They want everything to be done right. So it's a pretty massive undertaking. Even if they just changed one word in policy or omitted, let's say they went in and they took out sight, scope, stocks, and grips, they're going to have to go in and they're going to have to train in and go, look, and unless it's firearms, ammunition, magazines, leave it alone, right? And then they're going to have to show some examples and do some other things. And that's other things that we've been working on. Thankfully, some of the videos, some of the channels that I've helped out with, that's great. If you have a problem, reach out to me, because that helps whenever I can take an example of a quote unquote injustice, right? And the first thing we got to do, if you've got a problem, is we've got to parse through your channel. And again, evident by the thumbs down. By the way, thanks for the engagement on John's chat, because thumbs down, it means the same thing as a thumbs up at the end of the day. So we enjoy the extra click. It's awesome. But what happens is you're going to reach out to me and you've got a problem. The first thing we're going to do is I'm going to take everything that I know and understand, and I'm going to look at the video or your channel, and we're going to try to figure out where you might have gone wrong. If you did. If you didn't, that's fine. If you did, that's fine too. And then we're going to start the escalation process, and move it up and see what we can do. And the great thing about doing that, more often than not, 99% of the time, when I get somebody that's got a problem on YouTube and they say, help me out, 99% of the time, it's not an issue where we learn anything, quite honestly. It's an issue where YouTube learns something, right? And that's beneficial. Whenever they can see that they're wrong and they can see the inconsistencies and stuff, that's when we start to make an impact. Just complaining and whining about it and posting about it on social media and going and making a video and saying, hey, YouTube demonetized me, go over and give me a bunch of money on Patreon, blah, 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 blah. That doesn't serve any function, right? But if we start to look at the problem, address the problem, figure out why that problem exists, and then what is the mechanism to not only deal with that problem and get recourse or restitution or whatever you want to call it, but also affect change for the future. And I think we're moving that way to the point of channels being deleted and videos being deleted. We see a lot of monetization stuff, but we do not see channels and stuff being removed and deleted, knock on wood, like we did a couple or 3 years ago. And everybody out there, if they're being intellectually honest, knows exactly what I'm talking about.
All right. That sounds good, Clover. I want to thank you for coming on.
Just clap for that, you stupid bastard.
Come on, man.
So thank you so much. It was an engaging conversation. I just want to thank you for coming on.
Hey, can we invite Clover for a 30-minute show? This way I get to talk some more.
Nope.
Yeah, it's fun having Clover on because you don't really have to do any work. You just sit back and let him go.
No,
after
Clover,
5 minutes of me sitting here and not getting to talk, and you're shilling and pimping your stuff, really? I didn't plan on talking about all of that. I don't even know how we got onto that, but you pushed me down that rabbit hole. But no,
your wife must be a good listener.
In all seriousness, it's a much more. Let me say this real quick, right? In all seriousness, it's a much more complex situation than anybody makes it out to be. And it's a much more complex situation than I can explain and talk about to multiple people in a chat audience here on a live stream. So, if you want to literally discuss some specifics to your channel or videos or ins and outs or whatever, reach out to me. I mean, we can do that.
Yeah, Clover's a good contact. He helped me out understanding what was going on and why. And yeah, I didn't cry. Oh, they deleted my video. They killed my live stream. Big deal. So what? I can make more.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. Tell people where they can find you, Rich. Then I'll go to Clover.
FlyingRich.com, YouTube.com/FlyingRich, and on Patreon.com/FlyingRich. Just give me money. I won't give you any content.
And Clover?
Oh, they can reach me at my YouTube corporate email, which is CloverTac@YouTube.com. No, I'm just kidding. No. I do not work for YouTube. CloverTac@gmail.com if you want to reach out, if I can help you or maybe try to explain or whatever. More importantly, if you follow somebody as a viewer, a follower, a subscriber, whatever, if you follow somebody that's having an issue, get them to reach out to me. And again, I mean, I may not be able to right a wrong. Honestly, they may have to face the music and realize that they were wrong. But at least we can have a conversation and acknowledge the frustration. And a lot of frustration is born out of ignorance. So if we can educate and kind of get an idea and an understanding of what's going on, make them feel a little better, maybe. But again, we might be able to get an injustice solved as well. So definitely, yeah, reach out to me if you've got a problem. Send folks my way. If you don't, you can hit up CloverTac.com. If you're not a rabid, avid YouTube user, and you can reach me on a multitude of platforms. So maybe you don't email like John. He likes to send the links for these shows through Instagram DM, which is weird, instead of emailing them to somebody like a normal person.
Email's dead.
If you are a weirdo like John and you must DM as opposed to email, forget the CloverTac@gmail.com and hit me up on Instagram or Facebook or somewhere and say, hey, I need some help.
Clover, we all know the RFC for email is 72 hours.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
There you go. That's why. All right, guys. I posted the link to my subscriber and supporter hangouts for my Patreon people and my YouTube subscribers for October. What I do, Clover, is once a month I'm doing a hangout with like all the people, just in a big Zoom session.
So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's just something I like to do. I like to do that. Plus, we have a Discord too, which is in the description for open for everyone.
So pimp something for me, John. I put a link in the chat. Since we have talked about YouTube and creator stuff and all that so much, the nerd stuff, as I like to call it, throw that link out in the chat if you would. That is, I've been doing stuff for years on the CloverTac channel, talking about YouTube and creator stuff and whatever. I've separated that now and created a new channel called GunTuber Academy. I want to separate again, we talked about earlier how I'm not an activist or anything like that. Don't classify myself as one. And so
I am.
Same thing. I want to shoot guns and have fun and educate people and do all that on the CloverTac channel. And I want to talk nerd stuff and all of that, but I kind of want to put that into a separate channel. So that's why I did that. So if you're out there and you're a creator, I've got a couple of videos up now, and there'll be more coming in the future, just little tips and tricks. Specifically, they can apply to other creators and other niches. Some of the stuff we talk about, but most of what we talk about there will be directly applicable to firearm content creators. So thanks for that, John.
Yeah, no problem. You got some new subscribers. I put that out there. I put it out there, so I went to all the channels and also my Twitch, like my Periscope, which I think is dead now anyway, and my Facebooks. So yeah, so it went out there everywhere. I want to thank everyone for watching. Remember, you can always support me by going to patreon.com/John Crump or visiting blackswantactical.com, which is my website, Tusk. And I want to thank JSD Supply. And with that, we are going to be doing 2 days of the turkey shotgun drinking game. That's where
Turkish shotgun drinking game.
Shotgun grid. That's where you go through all the foils of all the stuff coming.
There could be mystery meat. There could be a Glock.
We discovered the Glock carbine the other day, so hey, I don't think Glock likes me too much for putting that out there, but oh well. Those are in the country. Yay. All right. Thank you guys. I'll see you tomorrow.